myself. I'm Rich Crum, managing partner at VeilSun Incorporated. We're a software development firm based out of Denver, and we develop cloud software systems across multiple industries with a real focus in the construction industry. Pole planning is just an area that has been very big for us the last couple of years, and obviously very topical right now. So we wanted to get a webinar together. We've also got James Cosman, Chief Solutions Architect as well. He'll be leading us through the demo, and we're going to try not to talk about ourselves too much up front and get to the meat of this. And I promise no Tiger King jokes or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and move forward. So our agenda is really kind of what is pole planning. We're going to kind of take a little poll to see where everybody's at with pole planning, so we can kind of gear the demo and the conversations around where everybody's at with pole planning and how much you use it. Talk about the results of pole planning, what the results we've seen using digital pole planning, and those kinds of things. So how it works, how pole planning works in general, in case there are folks on the line that may not be participating in pole planning, and those that might be doing it lightly today might be a good little refresher. And then we'll jump right into QLean, our pole planning tool for construction, in the demo itself. So, and then we'll have a Q&A, next steps and Q&A kind of at the end. So, but again, if there's some questions, it looks like maybe unmuting isn't working very well. So if you want to put something in the chat, there's a chat at the bottom. I think we're all becoming more familiar with Zoom. So we'll definitely stop and answer questions as we go. So here's the poll we want to kind of take up to help gear our conversations. But these are the questions. We don't currently pole plan today. Do you do it manually on whiteboards, or do you use it? Or have you jumped into the digital world of using some sort of a tool? And then you might be doing a mix of both. Larger construction companies may do both as well. So I'm going to kind of wait and see what the results are. James, can you see the results?
I can. I'm showing them on my screen now, but I'm not sure if all attendees can see.
Okay.
Looks like we have a good mix. We have seven people that have answered. So we have 2 that don't currently pole plan. We have 2 that do it on whiteboards. We have 1 that does it on software. And we have 2 that do it both on whiteboards and digitally.
Okay, so
we have a good mix.
We got a good mix, so that's fine, and we're not going to go too deeply in how to run a successful pole planning session during this. We're kind of gearing it towards the software itself, but we will kind of talk about general principles and that kind of thing. So thank you. So construction industry challenges, labor shortages, as we all been experiencing, the last few years. These, trying to get the right trades in the right places at the right times. Cost and timeline overruns. Being in Denver, we've got an airport that's kind of way over budget and that. So we're all really kind of very familiar with those kinds of challenges that we have with the overruns, obviously. And then a big trend, in the last couple of years is around project management software, really kind of going digital and, doing that kind of a transformation into project management, whether it's really remedial using spreadsheets or other types of software, Procore, those kinds of things have become obviously a lot more popular recently. COVID-19 obviously is another challenge that we've got now. How do we run and plan construction projects amidst this situation? Looks like we may have to know. Looks like we got a question popping up. So, if there are other design team members on the call, I work for an architecture firm. Okay. Are there other architecture and design firms on this call? I'm not sure, but we have catered to that as well. Really, pull planning in general can be used at any level of project planning in truth, but we're gearing it towards polls themselves for this. But yes, it's really a way just to set up a project. Great. Okay. So what is pole planning? It's a lean construction practice, Six Sigma, really kind of emanated from the manufacturing industry to eliminate waste and streamline processes, and really with kind of the customer and end result in mind, to create a plan and a process to be efficient. In pole planning itself, stakeholders participate in the project planning process. It's a way to collaborate instead of having a single person figure out the plan. It's to get together and be able to kind of, vet out all those things that might be getting in the way, what people need, efficiently scheduling days on job sites. So it's really the collaboration is an extraordinarily important part of this. And those of you that have done pole planning understand that it's sort of we've had stories of people who haven't done pole planning really resistant to it, and now that they can't do pole planning, really wish they could after they kind of had jumped into it. Because of that collaboration, I think there's a lot of science and numbers behind how efficient it can make this. We'll talk about that in a second. But you're really choosing a goal or a target, and you work backwards. It's a way to create a critical path, the long pole in the tent, as they say. Figure out who needs what, and you work backwards in that process to come up with a schedule. We feel pretty strongly about this when you pull in bite-sized chunks. I know there's different philosophies, different levels of pole planning that people do from very big swatches, but we kind of believe in the 4 to 6 week sprints. But it's really pretty optional. We've kind of found it's hard for everybody to collaborate and get their head around a very long timeline. So to do this in pieces of the project has really kind of served best. The entire process is highly visual and collaborative. So it's putting sticky notes on the board and being able to visually step back and see things and work together and converse. It usually does, it takes a facilitator, at least one facilitator, to walk everybody through and to help and to kind of get some results. So great. So what are the benefits of pole planning? So it's probably more for those that might not have pole plan, and reminds the rest of us why we do it. But it really increases collaboration. It creates a realistic schedule that we can look each other in the eye and say, hey, I agree to this, you need that. There's some psychology around people actually adhere to verbal commitments actually better than written, believe it or not. It seems kind of backwards, but if we're all in the same room and can understand each other, then we know, we all know what we're up against. It gives us buy-in. Optimizing the schedule, again, there's some science. You save weeks in these projects, and I'm sure there's some testimonials of people on this call around pole planning about how much time you can save doing it, not just in schedule, but also getting the data into the system, right? There's always spreading of the information to everybody, and it's quite difficult if it's done on a whiteboard. You got to take a picture, you got to jot it down, you got to put it in a spreadsheet. It can take a long time. So continuous improvement. You can get into a next pool of bringing all the trades together, and you can find, wow, that didn't really work so well on the last phase of the project. Let's improve that. Here's one thing we ran into. So you can continuously improve being together instead of repeating the same mistakes over and over. And then the team can understand the big picture. Again, everybody's on the same page. Everybody's got the same goals, same marching orders, and it kind of creates a single team together. So again, there's probably some great stories out there of people on this call who do pole plans. I could share that, but we wanted to make sure we went over this really quick to remind ourselves why pole planning is so great. But why go digital? You can do it on do it on a whiteboard. Stickies aren't that expensive. Why do it digitally? Again, there's probably testimonies on this call of folks that have gone digital. But it's really an easy transition to put it into a system. And these boards and the board today that you're going to see are really easy to use and don't necessarily get in the way. And it seems, oh, it's scary and complicated, and it's really not if they're a good system. But it should be a fairly easy transition to do this, and we transition our clients into this really pretty quickly. We can immediately put the plan into action on the job site, so the data is there. So, for instance, in QLean, when it's on the job board and it's done, it's on the pull plan board. It's in the system. It's now data of record and can be used throughout the project to execute the project without any time, again, transferring information from the whiteboard, taking pictures, that kind of thing. Some folks probably can say on this call, you could take a half a day to a day or multiple days just to translate a manual pull into a system. And then there's also the aspect of sharing it as well. It's just a lot easier to share information when there's a single source of truth in a single place that anybody can get to appropriately at any time at the right roles. And we have to add three. We have to add mitigates against catastrophic events. It's obviously it's not very good social distancing to do a poll plan right now in the same room. So this helps that being digital. We can use Zoom. We can use systems to do these planning aspects of the projects. Here in Colorado, the projects are construction projects are going strong and using a lot of social distancing, but the planning process, if anybody's done poll planning, it's obviously hard. You can't start to do sticky notes over Zoom. So I'll hand this over to James, and he'll go through the kind of introducing QLean and get into the demo itself for everybody, which is probably what everybody wants to see.
Thanks, Rich. And I'll just repeat, if you have any sort of questions, put them into the chat, and we could actually unmute people one at a time if they had a question as we go through this. So I'll just give you a quick overview of our tool, QLean, and then we'll jump right into the demo. So QLean it's a web-based virtual application. And while we focus primarily on the poll planning aspect, and that's what this will be, it also goes from poll planning to actually running the project after you've done your plans and put those together, and immediately makes that available, if you so choose, into the field where the work is actually done. So this is a huge advantage over doing it on a whiteboard, where you might have to take a picture. Probably a lot of people on this call have taken a picture of the board, and maybe hand keyed it into another system or whatever. Well, as soon as you're done with your poll plan, it immediately publishes it. Trades can see their schedules. Your foremans on site can use it to do daily huddles and a whole host of other things. So that's a huge advantage of going digital. And there's something really unique about QLean, is that it's built on a platform called QuickBase, which some people on this call may be familiar with, some may not. But what QuickBase is it's a low-code platform. And what that means is that QLean, after it's implemented, can be customized way beyond what any other system out there that does digital poll planning can, and it can be done without the use of code. You don't have to have a software development firm on your payroll to make changes to QLean after the fact. You can create custom reports. You can integrate it with all the major construction software out there. You can build out other core processes. In fact, on the QuickBase platform, this is one of about 60 construction use cases that we've identified that people use QuickBase for, from safety management to project management to managing SOPs. It's all over the board. So this is a real differentiator of QLean versus other stuff on the market. So with that, I'll jump into the actual demo. Okay. So this is the poll planning. I'll go first through the poll planning board, and then I'll show how that is converted into a schedule, an actual live schedule, and then I'll finish up walking through how that schedule is managed after the fact, maybe in the field or back at your home office in the application itself. So that when you're setting up a poll planning target, you're basically assigning different trade partners or subcontractors that are going to be a part of meeting this milestone. I did this beforehand so that you guys don't have to see me enter in a bunch of data. So when you first come into a board, it would look something like this, where you have each of your shoots. We call this the shoot view. I've pre-filled out cards on the board, but sometimes this is done collaboratively. Some companies that we work with will actually have their trades pre-fill out some of these cards, so you don't start with a complete empty board. But adding cards to this board is really easy. So when you get into, if you're doing this virtually, I was about to say when you get into a room together, but when you're doing this virtually, you could actually have your users on their mobile device enter in cards and have it pop up on the board. You can also have a single facilitator that is adding cards directly to the board. I see a question coming in. Question about if this will be shared, the PowerPoint and the webinar. Yes, it will. We will be sending out a video to all attendees, and typically we also post them on our website. Great question. So when you're entering in a card, it's pretty simple. You're typically entering in number of people to complete that task, number of days that task is going to take to complete. If you're tracking locations on that job site, however you set that up. And then you're putting it in a promise. So I complete fire protection system. And then you're putting in a need. So in order to complete this, somebody else needs to do A, B, C, and D. Plumbing rough-in. You can also, at this point, formally attach this to other predecessors, other cards that people have entered. Typically, people do this in the next part of the board, but you can also do it at this point. So if I needed something from plumbing to occur first, then I could go ahead and enter in that as a predecessor. And if I do that, then it actually will show up here as a predecessor on the board. So you also notice that all the trades are automatically assigned a different color, because this is pretty visually important in the poll planning process. And if there's actually within a trade multiple plumbing companies that are doing work, it'll actually do a slightly different shade of that color. So this is really the first step in the planning process. You get everything under your subcontractors, everything that they're going to do. You put them on the board like this. You can reorder them. The idea is that you reorder that first. Each person is thinking about what they need to do first through last. So you could reorder the cards that way.
Hey James, would you mind zooming in a little bit and maybe kind of going over the information that's on the card?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe it's just my eyes are a little old. There we go. Cool.
I'll zoom in a little bit more. So the information that you see on the board is for each card. You'll see number of people, number of days it's going to take, the name of the activity, what the location is, who the trade partner is, and then if there's any sort of predecessors to that card. So with that, I will move to the next step in the process. So we call this in our tool the snake view. In the snake view, you have a milestone, right? So in this case, we're trying to reach this milestone of finishing the 4-1 rough-in. So what we're then going to do is take each of these shoots of cards that have been put together, and we're going to think about what's the last thing that we need to do to the first thing. So we're merely ordering the order in which tasks have to be completed. So you do this by starting to drag through. That is correct. We are assuming that the milestone planning has, so someone asked it seems you're assuming the milestone planning has been done, correct? For this demo, yes. But there is we went right to the board here. There is a process before this where you break apart your projects into milestones, and I'll show that towards the end. We're just going a little bit out of order here. But yes, that is what we're assuming.
They may come from P6 or however what other systems or manually, how you figure out those milestones, or within QLean itself. So.
Yep, that is correct. So, so you then could start to, and I'm going to do this in no intelligent order at all, just for speed. So you purists out there, don't shoot me over this. So you can start to drag these down in order behind that milestone. You can also double click on them and it will automatically put them in behind the next card. The idea is that you're going back to front in order.
And for the non-poll planners, it's really kind of like what absolutely has to be needed in order for that task to be done. So it's kind of going backwards in needs. And it's not really worrying about what can be simultaneously done or anything like that. So.
Yep, that's correct. So if something is simultaneously done, you kind of handle that in the next steps. You just put them in a similar order. So now I have my snake view. We realize that when people I'm heavily zoomed in here, but most people are doing this over a very, very large format screen. When this COVID crisis ends, most people do this like on a projector, or they will have a very, very large format screen, so they'll be much more zoomed out than this. But I have my ordering of events here. It's usually at this point that we see most people start to think about, okay, now how do I connect these activities together in formal predecessors? So the way to do that in this is you can click on this link predecessor and everything grays out, and then I can start to choose other cards that are a predecessor of this activity. So if I do that, they start to show as predecessors. I'm not going to link all of them, but just showing the functionality. And what this does is it does two things. When we generate the schedule, you can visually see, and it connects those in terms of formal predecessors together. But it also makes it so that when we get to the next step, and we're dragging things down, that we don't have activities, starting before another activity is complete that needs to be completed. So it's also a little bit of a safety valve. So then once this is set up, we then move down to the schedule view. This particular poll plan target that I set up, we're targeting to get done in 20 days, which is why we have 20 days in the schedule here. You can always add days beyond this. They'll show red because you're not meeting your target. Looks like I have another question in here. Does this basically revert into a schedule type of format? Absolutely. Yep. And we'll show that in just a minute. Great question. So this next step, you're starting to think about, okay, who can do work on the same day? We're starting to try to pack things in as closely as possible. So I can start to drag these down into days. If something is overlapping multiple days, you'll see that each card breaks out like this. So you can see how things are starting to stack up. This is hard to do with a sticky note on a whiteboard, right? Because you only have one sticky note. And you can start to pack in as much as you can to be started on each individual day. So I can start to build my schedule out in this way. Obviously, this is a very collaborative process and not nearly as quick as what I'm doing here when you have multiple subcontractors collaborating on this, talking about what needs to come first. But I'm just going to get these all into the schedule and hope that I come out under the 20-day mark. Now, notice this one has two predecessors that have to be completed before this one can be done. So if I try to put this before any of those predecessors or one of those predecessors is complete, it's not going to let me do that. You can choose then to break that predecessor link if you want to, but if not, then it's going to require you to put that, of course, after the two tasks before that have been completed. Break it. And these ones should work similarly. I'm probably going to break the predecessors just so we can see them on the board. It's telling me that it's extending beyond the days. I'm going to plop this in here. And then through a bunch of finagling, it appears that I have made my 20-day mark. So after this is complete, what happens is you would then go ahead and finalize the schedule. So I'm going to finalize the schedule. We finished our pull plan. And now what we'll pull up, what will be generated is an actual schedule format based on what we just pulled. So based on when the target pull plan date is, it works backwards and it puts dates on those. So this is how that particular pull that I just did turned out. This becomes an active schedule. It actually, we didn't show this when we were setting up the milestone, so we could get right to the board, but you can actually set several things that adds logic to this schedule, such as when are your company holidays? Are there any holidays or days off specific to that job site? So maybe you're only working 4-day weeks there, or maybe you're working 7-day weeks. And it can even get down to the subcontractor level where you know that a subcontractor maybe only works 2 days on the site. So you can put all those settings down when you're setting up the milestone, which is a part I didn't show. And it will take all that logic into effect in generating the schedule. And then from here, you can manage it like you would any sort of project management tool. You could add more predecessors, you can drag and drop and change dates based on what's happening on the job site. The system can actually be set up to send out notifications if you wanted to, where if somebody's task gets pushed out for some reason, they're adding another day to it, that that all the subcontractors after that get notified via email, or it shows up on their schedule that they need to show up a day later. So there's all sorts of workflows that you can create and drive off of this master schedule. So any questions so far? And then with this, I was going to go into some of the how do you manage stuff on a daily basis, from how do you set up milestones initially, how could this be integrated with P6 and other systems, that sort of thing. So a list of variances one might use to track constraints. Yes, I will show you that in just a minute, actually. Any other questions? Okay, great. So I'm going a little bit out of order here, but anytime somebody comes into QLean, they are assigned a specific role in the system. So if I am a project manager, my homepage might show something like this. It shows all of my active projects. It might be giving me some data on percent plan complete. It may tell me target versus actual at a high level in terms of variances on each project. These dashboards, or homepages as we call them, are highly customizable. Whereas a trade partner may come into the system if you invite a trade partner or subcontractor in, and they see something totally different. Like they might just see upcoming polls that they're going to be a part of. They might be able to add cards to that poll if you turn on that functionality. They may see their project schedules, when they're due to be on certain sites based on all the polls that have occurred, that sort of thing. But going into kind of how a project is managed on a daily basis, we'll go back into this. I was pulling a milestone for Chrysler, for this Chrysler building that we're building. So each project before the pull plan is built is broken up into milestones. So the one that I did just now was floor 1 rough-in, right? Some of our clients actually pull this data in from other systems, like P6 is the most common one, where this is already built out. But you can also build this out and break up your project directly in the system itself. And the way to do that is, you're simply adding in milestones, giving it a name, a description. You're putting in how many days your target number of days is, what your target completion date is. You can put in a poll meeting date. So when you plan on doing that poll, now they're probably all virtual, but when they weren't before, you could put in a poll meeting location that all the subcontractors are going to show up to, and this could actually notify them. So that's how you would enter in a new milestone and break up your project amongst multiple milestones. See another question. Oh yeah, absolutely. Can a schedule be imported from Power Project? Yes, absolutely. So there's 2 ways to get data in from external systems into QLean. One is through like a manual import, like you can absorb a CSV or an Excel file into the application. The other way to do it is you could do a more direct integration. So option one for Power Project is absolutely available, which is a manual import. We'd have to look if a direct integration where it automatically comes in is available.
Yeah, just to kind of support that, pile on that a little bit, is that QuickBase itself as a platform has a really rich set of what they call APIs for the technical folks or whatever that might be on this call that can integrate with really any other system. I mean, obviously it's going to take some work or whatever to do that, but then you can also, like James said, kind of manually import stuff through CSV or whatever you might need. So it depends on the situation, but QuickBase is very conducive to getting information in and out and reporting as well. Just to also kind of reiterate this platform QuickBase, so some of these dashboards or these reports or queues or whatever, these are highly customizable, very easy to change. Doesn't take a developer to do this aspect of the poll plan. The poll planning board's a little more complex, but these screens with reporting and queues and workflows are extraordinarily easy to work with.
Yep. We see our clients do a lot of their own customization around this, around some of the metrics that are popping up against projects. We just kind of do some base stuff where you can see, how many tasks, how many delays have been entered, and give you a percent plan complete, because everybody tends to make changes to their key metrics that they're tracking. You can also, on the project, remember I just showed a schedule for one particular milestone, which is floor one rough-in. You can, of course, manage the project as a whole. So if I wanted to see the entire project with all of the polls that have already been done, this is all of the project, all milestones for the entire project showing on one, and I can do all the same stuff, create dependencies, manage it as a whole. You can also filter down if you wanted to. You want to see an individual trade partner's schedule. Let me make sure this trade partner is a part of this one. I think I have. Pretty sure I have GC, yeah. So you can see an individual subcontractor's schedule also and print it and send it to them if you don't want them in the system. I can filter down by milestones that I've already pulled against. So if I want to see an individual one.
Or the different trades might have a dashboard that they see their stuff and can kind of help manage their process as well too, or like James said, print it out if you don't want them to get into the system. But that's what's so great about QuickBase is you can make it really role-based, and we can do a lot of things to separate and for security or just to parse information out between different folks.
The other aspect of this is the field aspect. So there's this concept in here of a look ahead. And the idea behind the look ahead is that, let's say this is a foreman on site doing a daily huddle. They can access this via the app on their mobile phone or on an iPad. And they see each week what's being done on their job. And you can actually give access to this to the subcontractor themselves if you want them to status this. But they, in their daily huddles, can say, okay, these 5 groups or these subcontractors are supposed to be on site doing this work. And you can get together on a daily huddle, ask them if they're on schedule, mark it as still unscheduled. You could also put a delay. This actually creates a constraint in the system. So we just have dummy data here. Everybody categorizes their stuff different. But you can put it in here and say the reason for the delay, the number of days necessary, how many days it's going to be delayed. And then the way it's set up as default is a project manager can then kind of approve that delay. So it updates the master schedule, although you can turn that feature off where as soon as they put in a delay, it actually pushes the master schedule automatically out. these are some of the things that can be changed to fit more of your process. It does come with a mobile app also that's a little, looks similar to this, but not exactly like this, more formatted for a mobile screen if you're working in the field.
So just to kind of pile on constraint management, there's, obviously there's focus by different groups to really manage constraints in lists and queues and workflows. And that also can be built in here very easily rather than using a spreadsheet or whatever when you're going offline for the constraints, the internal GC constraints or whatever to be managed. So that's kind of nice as well. So these workflows can extend beyond the trades. There might be other architecture firms or whatever working on these things, or signatures or sign-offs or whatever. So.
Absolutely. It also is making a PPC calculation based on what people are putting in that look ahead. Things are delayed, etc. Complete, and it's calculating your percent plan complete by milestone and then as a whole for the entire project. So there's a lot of other stuff in here, but that's just a really high level overview of the key features within QLean. With that, we can kind of open it up for Q&A at this point, I think, and see if there's anything you would like to see that maybe we can talk to or show, and anything we haven't covered. It's really up to you.
Any questions out there? One thing with QuickBase as well, it's a very powerful report generation tool. It's very easy to create custom reports in this. It's basically built in. So that's a very big, powerful part as well. And you can export any of this information into CSV files or whatever you might need. But what's nice about it being in the system, you can also execute the projects as well. We really don't dive into the execution of projects in here, but QuickBase classically has been used for that aspect of a project. It's really running the project itself. You have any questions out there? Okay.
Got one. That's a good question. So, so this is also, so the question is, I always forget to say it is what is proprietary about QLean, considering other similar digital pool planning tools such as vPlanner, Slap Planner, etc. So we're a little unique in this, is that what we do is, because this is on the QuickBase platform, when you get this app, it's yours and it can be customized however you want. There's aspects of this that are code-based, not low-code QuickBase things, like the poll planning board itself. You actually get the code to that. So if you have JavaScript developers, like that, you can make updates to that. So really the only thing that you can't do once you get this in terms of customization, in terms of updating the app, is you can't resell it. It's yours for internal use at that point.
At least without a conversation.
Yeah, at least without a conversation.
But it's really what we call an 80% solution, because we want to customize it so it's always packaged in customizations, so we can fit the needs and the roles of your organization, how you do things. So we can bring this up very, very quickly as well for just the basic stuff. Certain clients just want to get this up and going pretty quickly. It could be a matter of almost days, but it depends on the level of customization and the adoption and how you want to roll it out. Hopefully that answered your question. You'd be more than glad to answer any of those questions offline too. Yes, completely tailored. And that's really the power of the QuickBase platform itself. And then what we do as a services organization, development organization, is to customize to the business's needs. You can buy a box solution, but you can't change it. So Touch Plan is a a pretty widely used poll planning tool, but we can't really change it. You're kind of, there's really great features, and then we've replaced Touch Plan in some places, and there's some features that we can create for our clients that can't be done in Touch Plan. So it is tailored to answer the question. Absolutely. Great questions. Is there any other questions out there? We're here, and
I see a few in the Q&A I can answer real quick.
okay. Cool.
One is, you did say that contractors can pre-fill the cards. That is correct. It's a feature that you can turn on and off. We actually see some organizations absolutely not wanting this feature turned on, and some absolutely want it. So it's up to you, but it's built to do either. So I missed that question early on. Other one is, get a poll session going, you essentially create a meeting. So I'm understanding the question correctly. Yes, you can do a poll session over, you do like a Zoom meeting like this, or a GoTo meeting, and do share screens if you're doing it virtually. Once this whole crisis ends, it's built around the idea that you would all be together in a room, which is pretty essential to poll planning. I hope I answered that one. Okay, any other questions? Let's see, looks like we might have another one. Okay, yeah, seems I did somehow answer that question. Okay. Anything else we can answer for anybody?
Great.
Okay.
So you did answer the question about multiple contractors and vendors. This was in the chat part. Can this application be used by multiple contractors and vendors, owners, et cetera, on different projects and have access via security for only the project assigned to? Yes, absolutely. Again, a very big, powerful part of QLean and QuickBase is that we can separate by roles, by projects, tasks, whatever, and we can define that per organization depending on how you want to separate and secure those information. So that is absolutely true. And different roles can have different dashboards as well. So. Hopefully that answered the question. Okay. Any other questions? And we'll kind of go over this, but can be available for questions at any time as well. So. Cool. Looks like that's about it. So we'll just kind of wrap it up here. So really, if you want to know more and you're interested, obviously we can set up a conversation with you, brainstorm, whatever level of poll planning you're doing. We love talking about it. We just think it's a very powerful process as well. And then we could talk about if the software would work for you and how it might work for you, or, other things in construction. There are lots of other use cases that we work on in construction as well, dozens actually. So we're more than willing to talk about that. You can also kind of go look at the poll planning software landing page. It might be helpful. We've also got a white paper out there that's always a work in progress, but again, we'd love to talk to you, love to hear what your feedback is on this tool, what things you'd like to see, what you're trying to do, and be great. So with that, I guess we'll wrap things up. Hopefully everybody has a really great day, and we hope to hear from you, and we may be reaching out with some information for you, and we'll, I guess, give you a recording of this, right, James, of the webinar if you wanted to look at it again or pass it on to somebody else. So really appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and hopefully everybody's staying very healthy at this point in time. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.